All right, welcome, welcome. My name is Andre Rochester, and I am the curatorial chair here at the Windsor Art Center. And I am happy to be here with Mr. Windsor Stellmacher. I know him as Dwight. That's how we were introduced to one another. So it's hard not to call you by that name, bro. Old habits die hard, as they say. And so we're here to talk about the current exhibit at Windsor Art Center, which is up until the 23rd of this month. Second Layer, a conversation through canvas with Benford Dwight Stellmacher. See, I almost called you Dwight one more time. I'm gonna just call you Dwight for the rest of the Zoom. That's what I'm gonna do. How about that? But yeah, so phenomenal exhibit. If you haven't had a chance to go and check it out, please do. Again, it is up until April 23rd. And then we are going to move into our next exhibit, which is called Acceptance Through the Ages. There will be some information coming out about that later. But for right now, we're talking about Second Layer. And I'm just going to jump right in, man. Who is Benford Dwight Stellmacher? Why do you make art? What brought you to this point where you have this solo show, this phenomenal solo exhibit up here at Windsor Art Center? Where you come from? Where's this talent from? How'd you develop all these ideas? And what made you make this series, Second Layer? I know I asked you a whole bunch of stuff.
Well, let me do this. I wanted to start off just with a quick word of prayer. So, Father God, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to speak, concerning the exhibit, for this opportunity to share the gift that you have given me. And it is my hope and my desire that it inspires, influences, and impacts your people. And I give you all the glory, honor, and praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
So, Benford Dwight Stellmacher Jr. I am a native of Bloomfield, Connecticut. So, born and raised in Hartford. Went to Bloomfield High, graduated Bloomfield High, and went to Hampton University. And the funny thing, Dre, is, I just wanted to draw, right? So went into architecture, wanted to be a part of the elite group of, creatives. And Hampton University just so happened to have an 8-to-1 girl to boy ratio. So that was a favorable experience. But no, man. And I wanted to create, grew up drawing, creating, the whole 9 yards. And when I got towards I would say my architecture program was a 5-year program. When I got towards the 5th year, I had found out about graphic design. I really didn't know a whole lot about graphic design. And I was just like, man, it's too late to change my major. Ain't nobody got money for all that, right? So, but it wasn't until later on in 2010 that I actually went back to school for graphic design. And just art was nowhere on the horizon, right? So, like, literally. And when I took the time, so I had started my own graphic design company. And when I started my own graphic design company, I put it in the studio in 2010. Just my whole goal, my whole plan was just to be creating logos, graphic design. And then there was a prophetic word by my pastors. And with the catalyst of that prophetic word, with my wife asking me to host a paint and sip down in Georgia, in December of 2000, had to be 19, yeah, because we was going into 2020, and so we did that, and I never put the brushes down. My mother will tell you I've been drawing ever since I was little, drawing Snoopy, Garfield, Calvin and Hobbes, and Transformers, and every G.I. Joe characters and everything like that. I actually started off drawing still figures. I remember drawing still figures on napkins and stuff like that. But what's crazy is I've only been painting for 2 years, and never been formally trained. And I always remember this one class that I took in my graphic design program. I had to take a drawing, art 101 class, and every assignment in the class, I got 100 on it. And the teacher asked me, she said, she pulled me aside after class and she was like, can you tell me something? Can you tell me why you're in my class? And I said, what do you mean? I need this class in order to graduate the program. And she said, there's nothing I can teach you. And I was like, man, stop playing. And I told her, I said, I've never been trained in drawing. So it is truly a God-given gift. And, just over the years, it has been surreal to see and experience the impact, number one, that it's made in people's lives. Um, it's been overwhelming to experience the catalyst of the conversations that the pieces have caused. And that's literally why I called them conversations, because God had literally told me, he was like, there is a dialogue that I wish to have with the hearts of humanity from the pulpit of the canvases, because there are people that are never going to touch a church, right? So I don't look at art as just therapy. I don't look at art as just an aesthetic. I also look at art as a form of ministry. And for me, however it is that God wants to use me to serve humanity with the capacity of the gifting that he's given me, I'm here for it. And so I am so grateful and humbled by the opportunities that I've had to exhibit the artwork. I've had the opportunity to exhibit artwork up in Charlottesville, Virginia, in Wilmington, Delaware, last December down in Miami, Florida. And now, this was a very, very pivotal show for me, because I've always wanted to do a show back home in Connecticut, of course. And so the opportunity to meet you and the board, and, the opportunity to display at the Windsor Art Center has just been paramount for me. And I just love what has transpired, because of it, with our relationship and just with the exposure of the conversations. And so it's just literally been a day by day mental explosion because of, what God is doing.
So you talked about incorporating ministry into your artwork, and how you see it as more than just a talent, right? It's more than this thing that you use to create pretty pictures, and I absolutely love that, because I also see it as a sort of a ministry. I don't necessarily call it that, but in my own art journey, I guess, I've used it as a means to connect people. Were you already involved in ministry prior to pursuing art professionally?
Yeah, so actually, I am an ordained minister. I'm the youth minister at my church here in Smithfield, Virginia, Soteria Life Center. And it's really, really funny, because I talk to the young people, and even when I started the graphic design, and this is the way that it all flows right together. So when I started Authentic DNA Studio, me and my business partner, we started an actual t-shirt line called Authentic DNA Apparel. And the tagline for Authentic DNA Apparel is, be the you that you were designed to be authentic, right? Let the world experience the greatness that's on the inside of you, right? So it's all about us inspiring people to believe in their gift, influencing them to pursue that gift, getting educated in it, whatever it is, but then ultimately impacting society with the greatness that God has put on the inside of you. And so with that being the case, now, you turn around and I'm tapping into that unique creative gifting on the inside of me. And it's designed to basically say, hey, you can pursue your passion, you can chase your gift. And because so here's that little thing that I want to dispel. I don't believe that whole starving artist mentality, right? I personally believe that a starving artist is a person who has made the quality decision to try to do their own thing in and of their own wisdom, talent, and ability, instead of following in direction that God has called them to go, right? Because I believe if I do what the Lord tells me to do, there's going to be success on the other side of that, right? And so for me, it now becomes a thing of, hey, you know what? I want my life to be a blueprint for young people to see, hey, minister is actually out here doing his thing, being obedient, being successful, selling paintings. I mean, testimonial wise, it's nothing but the grace of God that I've within 2 years I've sold over 100 original pieces of art, right?
Amazing.
And for me, that's bananas. Like I'm still looking at myself like, yo, I'm coming out the gate. And so yeah, at the beginning, I'm thinking about it from the perspective of, hey, I'm just starting, I'm new at this, don't know this. And there's people hitting me left and right, like, yo, I need that conversation. As soon as I look, I create, post, and the next thing you know, it's like, yo, how much you want for that? And I'm like,
Hmm.
huh? And I'm sitting up here looking at the piece like, I don't think I should post this one, or I'm about to scrape it right and start over. The thing all artists kind of go through. But
Yeah.
like you said, ministry has always been a thing where there are conversations, Dre, that I mean, it would just blow your mind if you had my phone tapped, where people have literally seen things in these pictures. And that's the agreement that I have with God, where God said, hey, you created. Don't worry about the opinions, don't worry about the sales, don't worry about none of that. All I need you to do is create it, because there are hearts, there are eyes, there are things that need to be seen,
Hmm.
that connect with the people on an emotional or spiritual or whatever level. And that's not my responsibility. My
Mm.
responsibility is just to avail myself as his brush, right?
Love that. I love that. And staying true to who you are in your artwork is that's exactly what you're supposed to do. And you're not
Correct.
creating things just because you want to sell this object. You're
Correct.
creating things because there's literally a statement on your heart to make. There's something that you have been driven towards, and you
Yep.
are now using this artwork as a catalyst for discussions, deeper discussions to happen around what people see in the piece.
Yep.
um and that, I think, is where you find the most success as an artist. The
Yeah.
most value in displaying your work is when people are there and they're kind of lingering around the piece. That shows that they've engaged with it, right? They're thinking a little deeper than, oh, that's nice, right? Oh, that's nice doesn't do it for me either. I need you to feel something, and
Correct.
I can definitely say that you have in these past 2 years, you have certainly accomplished that over and over and over again with each piece that I see. And I just love to see the growth over such a short period of time, because 2 years ain't long.
I
Now,
appreciate it, man.
imagine 10 years from now,
I
how
know,
far you
man.
will have come as an artist, right? You coming out the gate like you on fire. Now, imagine 10 years from now, you keep that same energy. Guess what's going to happen? I mean, like, that's like sky is the limit, you know. So
Correct.
I just want you to know that I absolutely see what you're doing, and I love to have played even a small part in it. But even as somebody who's in the audience just watching, like, it's a beautiful thing to see an artist like yourself developing and just focusing on their craft and just making things happen, and allowing,
Man,
honestly, quite honestly, allowing God to work through you, right? There's a lot of ministry involved in what you're doing. And so that's literally the goal is being accomplished. Whether you intended it this way or not in the beginning, there was clearly a plan for what you're doing as an artist. And I also didn't lose sight of the fact that you said your wife is what got you started in painting. And you just did like a paint night, and that just lit that fire under you, right? So
literally.
they say behind every man is a strong woman to help them out, right? I'm a switch that. Now, obviously, I'm butchering the phrase, and that's on purpose. I would like to say that beside every man
Correct.
is a strong and powerful woman there to encourage him and to grow with him as he does with her. And I've only met your wife one time when she was up here, and we didn't, we ain't speak much, but you don't have to talk much for me to know good energy.
Correct.
And I just want to commend her for lighting that fire, because look at what came from that. Look at what came from a paint night.
And literally, and excuse me, the terminology, like she'll tell you in a heartbeat, my COO will make sure
There you
that you
go.
know. And she's my number one fan.
There you
And
go.
and when I say this, there is nothing more gratifying than having that love to inspire me when I go to the canvas, when I go into the garage, when I go into the backyard. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, and I mean, and a lot of times we've made a joke about it, but it's really funny, and I love it when I create a piece and then I show it to her and she says, "Oh, that's mine," and I'm like, "Oh, but that says something to me about the piece that you know it has that stamp of approval on it. You know what I'm saying? And you always look for that, like, hey, it's like when you put on that bow tie, that tie, it's like, hey, honey, what you think? And it's like you puff up real quick. You know what I'm saying? But
And they either she gonna be like, "Oh, that's cute," or she gonna be like, "You all right, all right."
like literally. But it's such a blessing, and I'm truly grateful to God for that. I don't words can't even express, because like literally, if I would not have done that, my brain was still going in a different direction outside of painting with the prophetic word that came over my life. And so I wasn't thinking about painting. And like literally to not I've never taken a art class, like painting art class. Like, so to see what's on display here at the Windsor Art Center, to see what's on my website, to see what's in my storage unit, I still stand there like, oh my God, I created all of this, and it's still, and I still have ideas. Like I'm still in my discovery phase. Like I'm like, I want to play with this. I want to play with that. It's like I'm like a kid in a candy store right now.
Try to hold on to that discovery phase and hold it tight, because one advantage that I'll say that you have over those of us who did go to art school is there weren't a bunch of rules drilled into you about what art should be, how to execute a piece, what
Gotcha.
types of things to use, how to do it, what type of imagery you need, why you need to do blah blah blah, right? There's a whole bunch of things that you learn in art classes that
Yeah.
help you to develop your craft, and there's a use for all that. But what you have the most is that creativity and that just not knowing the rules. So
Well,
it's good to know them, but not knowing the rules in the beginning and just kind of going at it and making the work, that allows you to just be yourself and have your voice early in the game. And I think you found your voice very quickly.
and you know what? When you said that, I literally heard this scripture in my spirit, Jeremiah 1:5, right? Before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you and I approved of you as my chosen instrument. Jeremiah was, assigned as a prophet. But here's what I heard when you were saying that, Dre, and it's literally like this. It's not about the sales. It's not about none of that stuff, right? We have been equipped by the grace of God to do whatever it is that we're doing, right?
Mm.
There is no amount of education, there is no amount of, so if you take that seal that you just said, that there are no rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you take all the rules and you just throw them away, what's the only thing that matters? The only thing that matters is I am a I have this saying that I say, I'm a creator, a
Mm-hmm.
design designer, and a visual visionary. And I create on a level that is unfamiliar to this world. And
Mm-hmm.
every single design has been engrafted in my DNA. And I tap into the throne room of heaven to illustrate designs for the glorification of God. Now, if you take all of that, package it up, put it in here, it illuminates here, and I display it on the canvas, the only thing that matters is I'm doing what God told me to do. It's not, it's not to say, yo, I got this in the bank account. It's not to say, yo, I sold 75,000 pieces. It's not to say none of that, because at the end, none of that matters. The only thing that I care about, like you said earlier, is when somebody walks into that art center and they look up on that wall and they stand there and their mouth is closed, but there's a conversation that's happening between them and that piece. There's something touching a heartstring and an emotion on the inside of that person. And I don't care if it's nostalgia, I don't care if it's brokenness. I choose to believe, and I pray over my pieces, that there is a healing that takes place on the inside of people when they look at my pieces of artwork. Now, yeah, you're gonna have people that question different things, but whoever my artwork is for, it's for them. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not trying to be everybody's artist. The conversation that is for you, and that dialogue will continue from whatever wall that it hangs from.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, when you say that you've never gone to any art classes or had any training, art class for you is different. It's not formal training, it's experience. You're going to learn through the experience of creating and trying new things. And your hand is going to be more skilled because of that. Like, you do the work with the palette knife, you also do work with a brush, and you're learning how to manipulate that medium. And essentially that is what you learn in an art class. You're in a way teaching yourself as you go through it, but you also have other artists that you can get advice from, or run ideas past, and ask questions. So art class is just different. It's just coming from your network. It's not coming from a professor. And that in no way makes your experience any less valuable than mine. As a professional artist, one to another, I can tell you now, the one thing that I probably struggle with the most is unlearning a lot of the stuff that I learned in art class, so that my work doesn't look academic. So I admire where you are as an artist, and I love the freedom in your work, because that's something that I'm working towards, and I'm certainly achieving in some regard. But it's a struggle, because we get trained into this mindset that art has to be a certain thing. And the truth is, art is all around you. Art is not a certain thing. Art is everything. And so remind myself of that. So moving along, we're going to switch gears a little bit here, and let's get into the work. Let's actually talk about the show. Let's talk about what you have on display, and we can begin with the conversation itself. Second Layer. So what is the background on Second Layer? What is that about?
So Second Layer is basically, in a nutshell, let's stop judging a book by its cover, right? And so I wrote this. So often humanity misses out on the opportunities to discover, the gifts, the knowledge, and the wisdom that reside on the inside of a person. And that's usually due to the color of their skin, their gender, their sexuality, or even religious beliefs. So here was my thing. Imagine the aesthetic quality of society if we allowed the pure canvases of our minds to be saturated with the brilliance of others that we encounter on a regular basis. And I said, so let's make a quality effort to not get stuck with what only is apparent before our eyes, but let's persevere to annihilate the surface of this first layer to embrace the gorgeous wealth that resides within the second layer. Right? So, and one of the things that kind of drove me to it in the different pieces, and transparently, I had went to, in the interview that I did there at the Windsor Art Center, I went to the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and we went into this room, and there was all this artwork up, and I was like, yo, And I saw this plaque on the side of the wall, and the plaque had actually said that there were pieces that were up there, and like the materials that were used were actually made by African Americans, right? And of course, we know that there are so many things that African Americans have contributed to society as a whole, but it's always been whitewashed, right? And so, what I intentionally wanted to do with that series is I wanted to start because here's the thing that I started doing, and I kind of want to bring this up in my artwork. I am very deliberate about not caring about the execution of the work.
Mhm.
I am, however, deliberate about the concept and the message, right? The conversation itself. I love the concept. I love that about it. And however that gets executed, then I'm cool with it. But
Mhm.
I'm not going to allow that to pigeonhole me from what I'm trying to say.
Got it.
And so so the very first piece, right, non-existent brilliance.
Mhm.
Are you able to share that?
Yeah, yeah. I was about to say I'm going to share my screen and I'll actually show the pieces as
Okay,
you talk about.
perfect, perfect. So the first piece is called non-existent brilliance. So non-existent brilliance is that piece, and what you actually see is a shadow being cast on the ground. And I said that the spectrum of the colors actually represents the brilliance of what every individual brings to this earth. But although society may not recognize you because of your race, gender, or sexuality, the world and the universe still recognizes you as a sun will cast a shadow upon an object, right? So a lot of times it's when you look at, let's take for example the Super Bowl, right? When you look at the Super Bowl, you saw the halftime show, hip hop at its finest,
Mhm.
right? You can't look at TV without hearing some form of hip hop, right? But we still live in a society that does not recognize us for who we are as Black people. You still have a society that is still discriminating against gay people, against Asians, against, and the list goes on, right? But what I wanted to do with this piece was intentionally recognize, and that's why I call it non existent brilliance, because even though I have all this on the inside of me, you still have to worry about people not speaking to you.
Mhm.
You still have to worry about people clutching their bags when they walk past you. You still have to worry about people locking their doors when they see you and your boys walking past, right? But you don't know what's on the inside of it. You don't know how smart I am. You don't know how gentle I am. But all you see is the facade, and now you govern yourselves according to that. Okay.
Mhm.
So now if you go to lift, so I transitioned from non-existent brilliance to actually let's do torn. That's torn.
This is
So let's do
torn.
torn. Yeah. So torn, I said, so let us tear away at the degradation that which has hidden this brilliance from humanity. And so literally let's tear back that first layer and let's start to have these conversations with the second layer and really addressing people and humanity as they are. There's only one race, and that's the race of humanity. So if I understand that, I'm gonna use Dre for example, that Dre has this wisdom, this knowledge, this gift, everything about him, and I do not allow the color of his skin, I do not allow his weight, his body, whatever it is that I can use as an adjective about him to sway me in a different direction of accepting him for who he is. But that's what I want to tear away at, and that's why I call that piece torn. So if you go to the next piece, it should be peeled. And this was one of my favorite pieces because I love how you literally got the feeling of this. And I said, let us peel back the layers of fear. Let us peel back the layers of ignorance that have caused our brilliance to lie so dormant, right? And that can only happen when you're willing to have uncomfortable conversations and acknowledging the fact that and this is, and it's all those different things that now say, hey, there are some things that I look at that, I'm being judgmental.
Mhm.
I'm being judgmental when I'm looking at this person, when I'm talking to this person, because here's the reality. It ain't just white people that's racist. You got black people that's racist. You got dark skin against light skin, right? You got Jews against Gentiles. You got, Muslims against Christians. I mean, all the way across the board. But when will we see humanity as a whole?
Mm.
So the next piece is called Lift. And I said, basically, I imagine, pulling up a shade or pulling up a sheet that basically says, let us pull up the veil of insecurity that has covered our brilliance for centuries, right? Because at the end of the day, when you know who you are, you don't have to look at somebody else through a different set of lenses, right? Your confidence in yourself and what you bring to the table is not designed to intimidate somebody else, but let us actually take the time to see how all this can mesh and work together. And then that last piece over to the right, brilliant existence, this was my way of saying, don't only see me for the brilliance that lies within me, right? But see me as we coexist as creative beings here to make this world a better place together. And I wanted that piece to be in your face. I wanted you to see the spectrum of the colors, but don't forget, that my education, forget all that stuff. But hey, this is Dre. He's a person.
Mhm.
He breathes, he bleeds, he hears, he sees, and he just so happens to be educated. He so happens to be an artist. He so happens to be an engineer. He so happens to be all these other things, or used to be. I saw the smirk on your face. So, you have to be able to delineate between those two things, because I don't want any of those things to matter more than me seeing the beauty of the individual that's standing right before me.
Mm.
And so that is what the whole second layer series and collection, is about. And then having the opportunity to basically display the other pieces and bodies of work that kind of speak to the aspects of our culture, right? There's a piece called African American Outrage that I painted that basically, was just a capture of the pain and the hurt, after the Breonna Taylor verdict, right? But it's all about, like you said, it's all about, in prime example, I literally just painted, 2 days ago, the I called it the lovely one, but it was Supreme Court Justice Ketanji, Brown Jackson, right? And seeing, the first Black female Supreme Court Justice now. And, it's, when you see this, it's more so a thing of, there's just so much to society as a whole,
Mhm.
And I just feel like the world would be such a better place if, and this is the thing, if
Mhm.
we the unconditional love was there, you know what I mean? But truly being able to put away or put aside all the garbage and being able to say, hey, like you just said earlier, I see you.
Mhm.
And let's go a step further. Not only do I see you, but I need what God has placed on the inside of you.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Because now it's, I see stuff in a puzzle form, right? I see things in the format that now says, hey, I can't do this all by myself. Let's just take this exhibit, for example. I got a storage unit right now, Dre, that's filled with over 225 pieces,
That's quite an inventory.
right? But now, what does that matter if I don't have anywhere to display it?
Mm.
Right? Yeah, I have my website, but of course, most of the people that have been, through the art center have not touched my website.
Mhm.
So now I look at it like this. I could have said, well, you know what, I'm not going to deal with Drake. He's an alpha. Those alpha guys, but
Watch it, buddy.
you look, yeah. but you look at how God connected us. And when I say I look at things in a puzzle, the thing I've always loved about puzzles, even though I don't like putting them together, the thing that I love about puzzles is you always see that complete picture on the front of the box that gives you, hey, this is what this thing has the potential of looking like if you take the time to put it together piece by piece. So like you said, in the beginning, I'm sitting here like, yo, this is only 2 years? This is 2 years. And I'm like, man, I'm just getting started. So I don't know who I'm going to meet next. I don't know who's going to see my work. I don't know who's going to call me. I don't know what's going to happen. All I do know is that I was created to create.
Mm. What a wonderful mic drop moment right there. If I had the skills, I put like a little animation on there right now. This mic just falling down the screen. So now would actually be a good time for you to plug your website, since you mentioned it.
So conversations are available at www.bdstellmacher.com. You can follow me on IG at bd.stellmacher. And I'm also on Facebook. My Facebook business page is B.D. Stellmacher Jr. But yeah, that's what it's all about. It's about creating conversations through Canvas.
Mm-hmm. So I pulled up this image because you were talking about African American outrage. You were talking about Ketanji Brown Jackson, first Black woman justice of the Supreme Court. Huge, huge historic moment that we have all witnessed. She went through the mud in order to get there. They put her through all kinds of whatever. I'm trying not to cuss.
Yeah. Good job.
They put her through all this stuff, right? Still got confirmed. She's in the court now. It is what it is. We have yet another first for our people. And this set of pieces became a series on its own. It wasn't intended that way, but as we were hanging the show, it just kind of made sense, right? First, we look at the colors, the red, white, and blue, which is consistent through all 4 of these paintings. But then you have the narrative that it tells. And can you talk a little bit about each piece, just to kind of give people, I guess, a little taste of what we realized while we were putting the show together?
Yeah. So from left to right, and I'll do it this way: from left to right, the first piece with the balloon is called Unfettered Dreams. The second piece is called African American Outrage. The next piece is called Liberty and Justice. And then the final piece is called We the People. And when we were hanging it, like Dre said, we saw that American theme, running through it with the red, white, and blue. And what you found as I'll call it a scarlet thread that ran through it, is the Unfettered Dream piece was really about the perseverance of your Blackness and not allowing yourself to hope again, to dream again, right? That little, because you always hear, I'm always getting my little red balloon shot down out the sky. And this is what I told people there when I was at the art center. For me, as a believer, I'm always hearing, the white man trying to keep me down, the white man trying to do this, the white man trying to do this, white Americans. And I'm like, there is no white American in my life that's greater than my God, right? And so there is nothing that's going to cause me to stop believing, to stop dreaming, to stop hoping. I don't care who you are. I could tell you everything about my life, and there is nothing that you can do to stop me because of what God has predestined for my life. And so I wanted to capture that, because you can't see it in this picture, but there's a chain that's being held by, the Black Power fist down at the bottom, but there's also a chain that's connected to the balloon. But there's still that much power in that balloon to still be floating and lifting, away. The second piece I got, like I communicated, African American outrage, it was a loud scream capture of the pain, the anger, the anguish. And literally when I painted it, I was just like, I had just recently saw some video footage of the Rodney King beatings, right? And I'm like, I thought about how long ago that was that happened. And I'm like, we are still dealing with the same things. And so just those paint splatters of the red and the blue and just that white background, it's just dealing with those things, right? And then liberty and justice. So this is the conversation with liberty and justice. I said, liberty is the woman, justice is the young male. And Liberty was tired of being antagonized about the color of her skin. So she called Justice and told Justice what was going on. And Justice said, let me finish my cigarette and I'm going to go take care of it. Right. And so you kind of see her resting on his shoulder because she did a dump. Right. So she literally gave her cares to Justice. So liberty, freedom, gave her cares to Justice, knowing that Justice is going to take care of liberty.
Mm.
And then the last piece, we the people, literally means that in America, we the people, not you the people, we the people. So for me, that's a conjunctive phrase that means, hey, we built this, we're here, we're a part of this society, we're a part of everything that's around. And it was basically that flag and those colors just representing that I'm Black. I was born in Connecticut. I'm an American, right? And I should not, and I will not ever prove to anybody the power of my existence. And so when I look at we the people, it is, hey, I have a right to be here. But I more so have a right to be here as a child of God. But in addition to that, regardless of my race, regardless of my ethnicity, we the people.
I dig that. I really do. Looking at this piece, specifically African American outrage, what I can say that you have as a major advantage for you, sir, is you know how to draw. Them pencils work. And the foundation of painting is drawing. So, don't be hard on yourself about being self-taught. You have the skill that is needed in order to expand into everything else.
Well, you know what's funny, Dre, and this is something that I've actually started evolving into, and even with that picture. So, and I think actually it was with that picture, I don't draw on a lot of my canvases first, right? I literally, but like you said, the foundation is there.
Mm-hmm.
But God has gifted me. I'm one of those people, I can draw what I see,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I could paint what I see. So like looking at reference pictures and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not one of those people, like if you ask me right now to paint a butterfly with a 9mm blowing a bubble, I actually have to have a picture of that. And then I can, draw and paint it, or I have to compose it, the composition of it. But like just trying to make that up out of my head, like I don't do that. I don't know how to do that. So like with African American outrage, the reference picture that I used, I actually sketched it onto the canvas, and then, started the build-up process from, the background to the foreground to the highlights and everything like that. And that's really becoming I'm going to call it a technique, that I love, because being able to do, the dark backgrounds and then coming on top of it with the highlights, with the foreground, and that middle ground layer. And then, I've always loved highlighting because now that's that third dimension. I love to make things pop off of the canvas. I love to
Having a
make
little
things.
issue with your audio.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you better now.
Okay. No, I was just saying I love having, those layers that cause that third dimension, like the highlighting and being able to see that form, being able to see his shoulders, being able to see, you know, your eyes can visually start to roll around the back of his neck, even in the tilting of his head, and things like that. But to your point, there are, like, now with Liberty and Justice, I actually did draw that out first because it was a very detailed piece, with his belt, with the boxers, and different things like that. But there are still different aspects of different pieces that
Yeah.
I love to be able just let the piece evolve, right? Because when I draw, there's something in my mind that says, "Oh my God, I got to stay inside this line, and I can't go." But when I'm sketch painting, it's like it's just that freedom, just
Letting it
to
build up.
let it build and flow.
Cool. I love it, man. I love it. So I'm going to stop sharing, and we're going to shift gears one more time here. So let's talk about the future. Let's talk about next. What's coming up for B D Stellmacher?
Well, actually, what's coming up next is I've actually been reached out to a local gallery here, Cultural Art Center, down in Gross Cultural Art Center here, um, and tentatively in the process of working on another solo exhibition here in Virginia, in Hampton Roads, Newport News. We're looking at July 16th through August 23rd. Um, can you hear me okay?
It's getting better. So what's happening is it's fading a little bit, and it's starting to get that kind of machine type sound.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The Terminator or something, man.
So I have so basically it's a solo exhibition here in Newport News, Virginia.
Wonderful.
We're looking at July 16th through August 23rd. So starting to prepare for that. The other thing that I'm looking at, possibly maybe looking at some opportunities in North Carolina, for a conference. A friend of mine is hosting a conference, but just looking for, and looking at the panel talk, with the New Britain American Museum of Art.
Yep.
But other than that, just looking for opportunities to exhibit and display the work, and literally just being more focused on, still creating, right? But I've always felt like this, doing the work, right, and allowing the work to create those opportunities for me. I don't know. Once again, I'm 2 years in. I don't know a whole bunch of people, but I always tell people like this: my network is my net worth, and so when I have the opportunity, to meet people, I don't know who Dre knows. I don't know everybody that you're connected to, but I choose to believe that at the right time, my face will be in the right place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Two things I'm getting here is always stay busy. And if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready, right?
And
things will happen. You just need to be prepared for it.
Correct. And for me, that's been the biggest thing. And that's what I love about this, because even, at the Windsor Art Center, it wasn't like I had to be like, oh my God, I gotta create this for the show. It was just like, all right, which one going? What conversation making the cut?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's a wonderful feeling to know that I can go to an aesthetic arsenal, right, and be able to choose who's locked and loaded and ready to be put on display. And so I want to continue with that, and and just look forward to the next opportunities, man.
Wonderful. So there was a surprise that you had for the people, and I saw you post. That's funny because you surprised me with it. I'm like, what is this dude talking about? So yeah, you have an unveiling today.
Yeah, so and it was still under the auspice of the inspiration from, the declaration of, Supreme Court Justice Ketanji. And I wanted to try my hand at a medium, right? So I grabbed some oil pastels. But here was the whole thing. So it was a combination. So there were some facial expressions that, of course, were memed and caught, all across social media. But then the flip side of it was, I always think about, Black women. And when a Black woman looks at you a certain way, right? When she's had enough, and enough is enough, I started capturing that. And so I started doing these markings on this canvas with these oil pastel crayons. And so I'm gonna flip my camera. Hold, please. And so I did this piece called Sister Side Eye, right? And
Like that title.
yeah, and literally because there was a moment that, when Ketanji, the Honorable Ketanji, was being questioned and, like you said, dragged through the mud. And here's the one thing that I thought about. Like, she literally, like, the overqualification, her background and everything, and it was in one glance, and she was just looking like, really? And like, that's what I almost named this piece. I almost called it Really, right? But I wanted to be intentional about the Sister Side Eye because out of all of those things, she maintained her composure, she maintained her class and her caliber, and she is another epitome of the gift that God has placed on the inside of her, has caused her to ascend her mountain in the sphere of influence of government, and to now be sitting in the highest seat in the land.
Mm.
So that Sister Side Eye, and I'll be releasing this tonight after this call, making it available on the website. And just wanted to share that, it's a wonderful thing when I saw this saying, I think it was Nina Simone who said, it's the responsibility of the artist to capture the times, right? And the one thing I find about myself, like, I love nostalgia, right? I love old school pics. I love, like when I see pictures of, the kids at the fire hydrant, with the cans, right? when you see those things, it takes you back. When you see, pictures of girls jumping double dutch, and I know Dre was one of the ones out there throwing rocks at him, talking about you can't jump.
I plead the fifth.
But no, it's just, I love building upon my past. I'm about to be 48 in July, so we're from a different generation. You know what I mean? So I just made a post the other day where I can remember the phone bills coming in the mail and me having to highlight the long distance numbers and me having to pay my mother for those long distance phone calls that I used to make. And one of my friends put on there, remember we used to have to call the operator to break in on busy phone calls?
Your audio is acting up again. Sorry.
So I just basically said, when you used to have to call the operator to get them to break in on busy phone calls, right? It's old school stuff, man. And I love those flashbacks. So, it's truly been an honor and a privilege. And I really want to salute you, Dre. And just thank you for seeing what you've seen in me, to afford me this opportunity. This is something that
never ever forget. And to be able to say that this happened at the genesis is paramount to me, man.
Thank you, and you're welcome. There's a whole team behind this. I'm certainly not the only one involved here. We also have Susan Kiss, who's on the conference today, as well as the remainder of our curatorial committee and installation crew. So it has been quite a journey getting this show together, and it's been a pleasure working with you, man. I got to say, this has been one of my best experiences working with an artist thus far. The amount of dedication that I see to your craft is admirable. The amount of professionalism is it is top notch. Like you did everything that you said you were going to do. You are the ideal artist to work with as far as our conversations, the way that we kind of built up to this point. So I've thoroughly enjoyed myself with this experience as well. And I want to thank you for, not just taking it seriously, but being open to the ideas that were presented to you, and the feedback that was received. I just want to say that you are, in fact, doing the right thing. And just like our new best friend, the Honorable Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, what is meant for you is for you. Nothing will ever get in the way of that. And this show, I think, was meant for you to have at this time. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened, right? So at this time, we got about 20 minutes left, and I'd like to open this up for some questions and answers from our attendees. So we'll do it like this. I'm gonna change my view here. We're gonna go in gallery view so I can see everybody. If you would just raise your hand to let me know that you have a question, and I'll just I'll call on you so that you can unmute. I can't unmute you. All right, how about that? Okay, Marcy and Sam.
Okay, so part of my problem is I wish this would go on for another couple hours. I absolutely love this show, and I have a question, but I also want to tell you that I have been into the Art Center several times. That blows me away every time I see it. But what's exciting is the conversations that are happening with the volunteers, especially. We've got volunteers talking about, okay, well, now this has got to mean what, and boy, they're getting it. And so that's so exciting. And one of the questions was, we were talking about it with some of the volunteers the other day. And of course, people that come in, and they're sort of engaging people that come in, but I'm talking mostly to the volunteers. But anyway, we were looking at the second layer series. And somebody said to me, well, that's a volcano. That's the name of those, which one is the name of that? Yeah, that's a volcano. And I hadn't thought of that, and it doesn't look like it's blowing its top, but on the other hand, there's a shape, and in some ways, could that be a metaphor that you would connect with that painting? That's so far.
No, and that was something and that truly speaks to what I love. And this is something else that I found out about her. Miss Marcy's eyes are different than Susan's eyes, different than Jennifer's eyes, and the one thing that I find is different people see different things, right? I never looked at Liv in the form of a volcano, because of course, as the creator, I'm just looking at it like, hey, I'm just pulling up a sheet. And so all I see is I see that sheet form, I see, that total white covering, and then being able to I just imagine myself, because I literally, what I did was I took a sheet, I put it on the floor, and I just pinched it and I pulled it up because I kind of wanted to capture that form.
Okay.
And that's literally what it was.
Wow.
Great. Thank you.
So Jennifer, you got a question?
I do. First of all, wait, can you all hear me? You all can
Yeah,
hear
we
me?
can hear you.
Okay, just gotta check. I just gotta check. I've been in several different areas, so I just want to make sure. So one, I am so incredibly proud of everything that you have done, and to literally see your journey through all of this has been like, just, I'm awestruck. Like, it's just beautiful. Just because of the level that you speak to the person who didn't even know it was in, you know what I'm saying? Like, you didn't even know this was in you, and this is what you're doing. So it's like leaning into that and literally like, yeah, I might have stumbled upon this. You've been building it all this time, but that's just beautiful in and of itself. I could go on and on and on about that. But I have a question for you. What made you decide to call these conversations?
So it literally, it was one day I was sitting in my morning room, and it was just, I was talking to the Lord about it, and it literally, like, in my prayer time, I could hear him whisper, like, there's a dialogue that I want to have with the hearts of humanity. And so looking at, the conversations that happen, between, because here was the funny part. I want to go back to the authentic stuff. The reason why we started Authentic Gateway Apparel, I went to King's Dominion, right? Went to King's Dominion, and there were two black boys walking, and one of them had on a t-shirt that said, "I'm with stupid," and it had an arrow pointing over to the right. And every time somebody saw the t-shirt, they started laughing, right? And I was just like, wow. And so their t-shirt was having a conversation with people without them having to say anything, right? Because a lot of times, here was the thing, and I can't remember who it was at the art center. I was talking to somebody, and I found myself kind of uncomfortable having the conversation about the conversations there, because I've never had these, racial conversations with white people before, right? And so it was like, when you're able to create something that can now create a conversation, and I get to sit there with my lips closed, then it's a thing of, hey, they're having their own internal dialogue. And for me, I'm like, well, what if that internal dialogue can now become the catalyst to an external dialogue, to where somebody, a friend of mine, she saw a piece on Facebook, and she said this, and it's a white friend, and she said, your pieces of work are causing me and my husband to have some very uncomfortable conversations about white privilege. And I was like, huh? And she said, yeah.
And she said, because, of course, there are things that she doesn't have to consider that we do. You know what I'm saying? And so when you start to, and I think I told somebody at the art center, when we started talking about white privilege and the power of white privilege, the power of white privilege should not be to suppress, right? The power of white privilege should be the recognition that you have a voice that somebody else doesn't have, and that you can use that voice to help somebody else, right? Whether it's in, stuff that's trying to be taken out of the schools, right? From a historical perspective, or whether it's, even if it is diversion and inclusion and equity, all the way across the board, because these are the things that we're still dealing with in society. So for me, for a company to even have a diversion, inclusion, and equity department or division, that says there's a problem to me, right? But why is that a problem? And it's a problem because people are still being discriminated against, right? So that's where conversations came from. So for me, it's not just I wanted to use my gift in a unique way to have these types of conversations, that whether it was on a spiritual level, whether it's on a corporate level, whether it's on a natural level, whether it's about self-esteem, whether it's about encouragement, whether it's about accomplishment, it could be about a death in the family. But allowing that, even the strategic, therapeutic, psychological aspects of using color to now influence how somebody is touched by the work. You could be having the worst day of your life, and now you come home and you see this conversation on your wall, and I don't know what that does to you or for you, but all I know is that it has the potential of changing that whole dynamic. And to me, that's when I can say #mission accomplished.
Well, I can personally say that there have been works of yours that I've seen just from you posting them that have made me stop in my tracks and cry. Like,
Wow.
you speak to that level. I don't know about anyone else, but it is a real conversation, and it is by far one of the most beautiful art experiences I could ever have. You know what I'm saying? And beautifulest,
Wow.
yes, that is the word today. That is the word today.
We're gonna let that one ride. We're gonna let it roll. Are there any more questions or comments? Sue?
This is just more of a comment because I got to see these works first when we were talking about it in curatorial,
Mhm.
and then seeing them in person. And we're getting all the dimensions, and I have a cat here, and you still you need to see art in real life.
Yeah.
When I saw them, and we're trying to, this is the fun part of when you get to install the work, because we get to pick them up and handle them and really look at them close. But when I first saw them in person, I just want to tell you what I saw. They said to me, every single one I could see in it was the word God kept coming up to me. Every single one. I just went, these are all aspects of God. That's what I saw in all of them. And then you've explained, for you, because you're the creator of it, right? This is when you create a painting and you're telling, people, showing people what your idea is and what you're putting out there. And like you said before, you don't know what a viewer's ever going to see because they bring their stuff to it.
Correct.
And sometimes it's funny, like when I've had works up and I don't want people to know that I did it, but I want to listen to what they're saying.
Yeah.
And the stuff that they're thinking, she must have meant this or that. And I'm like, wow, I never even thought of that.
Mhm.
But I know your one thought was that this was a God thing that comes out like very strong. Now you may have had a little bit different, thing in mind when you were painting it, but that's the big thing. And I can tell that that's like pretty central to you.
Yeah.
And the other thing I've noticed now, just because I've been able to see them again in a collection, is you've got a rainbow kind of thing, in the background and stuff. And, we recognize rainbows from like after a storm and stuff like that, but also the colors, because I like to study different religions, you have all the colors of the chakras there, which is another a God thing. So it's like a universal God, not just a Christian God, a Jewish God, or it's God, big God, like,
Correct.
Like it's recognizable to everyone. So anyways, that's what I got out of those pieces. You didn't know you had such a slamming thing there. It was big time. But I just wanted to tell you that. I was going to email you later, but I think it's better for you to hear it in person, or sort of in person.
I appreciate that, Susan. That truly that means a lot to me. And just once again, you know, you never know. And I don't know how to say this, but you never know how you're going to touch somebody's life. And
No.
that's through your conversation, right? Vocal conversation, interaction, you know, and through your gifting, you know, and it could just be the simplest things that mean the world to somebody. And I've always felt like this: when somebody leaves your presence, all right, they should leave changed. They really shouldn't leave the same. They should have been impacted in some way, shape, form, or fashion for the better. And that's really what I want to be. You know, I want people to be refreshed. You know, I want people to be touched in a way and experience God through me in whatever shape, way, form, or fashion that they need to. Whether it's, if I compliment your hair or your smile or, you know, your artwork or whatever, but it's just something that says, hey, I see you and you mean something in this earth. And I feel like there's part of me, and this is kind of off kilter, but just in me saying that, there's part of me that just feels like there would be so many less suicides if that aspect of love and meaningful, you know, intentional gestures existed. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Don't get me wrong. People deal with their own internal stuff, but I believe that if God puts it on your heart to reach out to a person at a certain time and stuff like that, you know, it's strategic. It's intentional, and it could literally be that. And I'll share this. My pastor had an experience at our church. There was somebody that was sitting out in our church grounds up underneath a tree, and he had came, and he literally initially was about to go talk to the person because it's like private property. You don't need to be here. ... And the Lord had, you know, just told him, to just, ask them were they okay. And he started a conversation. And the guy told my pastor, he said, I literally this was my last stop, and I was leaving here to go kill myself.
Wow.
And so you never know. And so for me, that's the same kind of mentality that I have, that yeah, I could paint whatever, but I don't know what's designed to touch who, and that's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to create. You know what I'm saying? And when I create, I don't care if it's 700 pieces in my storage unit. That just means the right person is going to see it at the right time, and it will touch them in the right way to make the right difference in their life.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I ask you one thing? I hope you're going to be probably pretty busy in the next couple of years, but at some point, could you come back to the Art Center? Because I'm mulling some ideas for some other stuff, and maybe not necessarily a show, but I'd like to have some kind of a panel discussion or something. I don't know. I'm just kind of formulating things now, but like about artists and how people view their work and how they view their own work. Something along those lines. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind.
That's a no-brainer. You don't even have to ask that question. That's yes times 10. And my goal is like my brother here, Dre. Within the next few years, my goal is that I will be doing this full time. So I will have the schedule availability to make myself available to whatever the need is. But I would love those opportunities. And and Dre asked something about the future. One of the things that I really, really want to be passionate about is getting opportunities to talk to kids at high schools and middle schools or what have you, just about pursuing their creative gifts and not just looking for money, right? Because when, like Dre said, art is everything. Art is everywhere. If you took away art, let me tell you how boring this earth would be right now. Right? Let's take away the sky, right? Take away the beauty of the fish, take away color, right? You take away all of that. But I want young people, my dream is, I want to be able to write and create scholarships for young people to pursue fine arts, graphic design, web design, whatever in the creative industry, because I don't want money to be a factor. I want to be a creative philanthropist that has created opportunities for young people to prosper in the creative realm. Because I know of course, I've done, architecture, I've done graphic design, now I'm doing fine art. And when you just look at all those things together, when you look at signage, when you look at, just everything, it's all around you, right? But I don't want it to be something that is constantly downplayed. And because yes, it is subjective, because even in architecture, this was funny. I used to tell my friends at college, like my business friends and stuff like that, I'd be like, y'all don't have a real major. And they'd be like, what? I said, you don't have a real major. I said, you get graded based upon book knowledge. I said, I'm getting graded upon somebody else's opinion of my work that could have had a bad dream about me the night before.
That's real.
I'm getting critiqued by this person that my design is subjective, so when you look at everything that we do, yes, it's all subjective. You can look at my art and say, meh, where that person is, I got this equation. If I got the equation right, then I'm getting 100. If I got the equation wrong, I'm failing the course, So, being in that light, it's and that's why I say it's so surreal to me for somebody to be willing, and this will be my ending statement, for somebody to be willing to exchange their currency for a conversation is a blessing.
For both people.
Yeah.
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
Okay, well, my parting thing, I want to just keep in mind, and Andre, we can talk about this later at some future curatorial meeting, but we have to have him come back at some point, and and he wants to visit his family anyway, so I know he'll come back.
Correct. Yeah. That's easy. That's all day.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I'd have roped him in somehow.
Yeah.
No, you might be in Virginia, but you still ain't far.
Not at all.
Again, Dwight, it's been a pleasure working with you. This is a phenomenal exhibit, and it has been very well received. So you are certainly in good hands with us, but we have been in good hands with you. You brought a certain energy to our gallery that we needed, and it is right on time. The theme of second layer and not judging a book by its cover is the perfect segue into our next exhibit, which is an LGBTQIA themed exhibit called Acceptance Through the Ages, in which artists will be submitting work that falls into the theme of self-acceptance and exploring the idea of acceptance in society. So this is a fortunate series of events where you just you set us up for another show about, not judging people and just, accepting people for who they are and recognizing the value that they bring to the world. So this, like I said, was meant to be. It was supposed to happen. We love your show. And look, man, I'm a friend, but I'm also a fan.
I appreciate it, man. And, I want to just extend a thank you to, go ahead, Miss Marcy, did you have something?
You're on mute.
I do. I hate to do this because you're being so eloquent in wrapping things up. But can I go? Do you have time for me to go back for a minute to something that was talked about earlier?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
One of the things that I was thinking about people of color that are looking at your paintings, and especially second layer, but I want to say something about a white person that's doing that. And so a lot of the people that I was talking to are white, all right? And as you know very well, a lot of white people are having trouble having the uncomfortable conversation. So there, I can't remember now who said it, but everyone's on a different place on the continuum of understanding, okay? And so one of the things about your second layer is that before anybody thinks deeper, you have white skin, right? And so the white person that is or maybe isn't ready yet sees themselves there, not as the oppressor, but as somebody who has their own, as you said brilliantly yourself, their abilities underneath too.
Correct.
Then gradually people are able to move into that next layer and say, and look what this white skin has done to the brilliance of people of color.
Correct.
And so what I think your paintings are doing in those is they're enabling a gradual movement deeper, both in terms of looking beneath everyone, but also recognizing that we've caused a heck of a lot, and how can you say this and not be almost trivial, but of pain. And so having those conversations, because the whole painting is beautiful. And so if we're having those, we're working towards something that's much better. But I can't thank you enough for these creations and the opportunity to be able to say these things to you. And Andre.
And that really means a lot, Miss Marcy, and more so from the standpoint, and like you said, it was the strategic intention of, you know, everybody brings their unique thing to the table, right? Regardless of your color, like we said, regardless of your gender, sexuality, whatever. So embrace me as a human first. Forget all the junk, right? But you have to be able to see past that first layer first, because of course we got eyes, right? So, you know, aesthetically, you know, yeah, it's kind of like this thing, and I'll never forget. This happened to me. Like I'm walking down the street in my own neighborhood, and you know, I see a group of guys all together, all black guys, right? Now, because of my own insecurities, yeah, you doggone right, I went to the other side of the street, right? Because in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to get harassed, I don't want to get bullied, but that was a judgment based upon the aesthetic, right? And that's because of societal, perpetuations and everything like that. But, you know, to your point, and the thing that I love about your conversation is, you know, the conversations with white people, and you said that the most meaningful key thing for me, if more, I feel like this, if more white people were willing and intentionally willing just to identify that word pain, right? It's willing to identify that, hey, Black people have experienced some things that you haven't, right? And being able to say, let's just look like this, just being able to say, is there anything that I can do to help? How much would that just within itself, not, oh, there they go protesting again, there they go doing this again, but being able to say, hey, you know what? I see what you're enduring, I see what you're experiencing, and I see my own counterparts doing it, and I'm willing to now step in as a barrier that says, hey, wait a second, you know what? They are getting paid less than we are, and that's not right. They are being blackballed by society, and that's not right. And I have this right because when you look at it, just think, and this will be my last thing, Dre. Look at it from, and I don't know if y'all ever heard any of these conversations, but let's look at this, the insurrection at the Capitol, right? Here's the reality. Now, if you just flip the switch in your mind to all of those people going up them stairs being Black.
Oh, yeah.
Let me tell you how many people would have been dead on that day.
Mhm.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So just in that, just being able to see that, right? That says, if you would have saw me, Miss Marcy, with a Viking horn sitting at a desk with my foot up on the desk, do you really think that I would be alive to tell that story? No, I wouldn't. You know, so for me, it's having people like you that have the heart, right, to say, yes, let's have those uncomfortable conversations, right? And let's do it not by accident, not because we were forced to, but because we have to, right? And let's do it on purpose because we understand the difference in the cultures and being able to bring those things out. So, like I told you a long time ago, I never wanted to be considered as a Black artist. You know, I never wanted to be considered as, you know, I'm just a creative, right? And it just happens to be, you know, yeah, I could be sitting out here painting, you know, lighthouses and, you know, sailboats in the ocean and stuff like that. But that's not what I'm drawn to. That's, you know, I'm creating based off of my life experiences. And those experiences are spiritual. Those experiences are as a Black man. Those experiences are as a businessman, you know. So I want the world to experience, and like Dre said, the authenticity of me. Because that's the greatest gift that I could ever give to this world. Not being a counterfeit. And that's probably one of the main reasons why I don't even sell duplicates or prints of my work. I want every person to have that original piece that says, hey, I have a one and only because I am a one and only.
That's powerful.
Yeah. Love that. I
Yeah.
love that. But thank you so much for spending some time with us and having
Most
this
definitely, man.
conversation. Like I said in the beginning of this, we talk for hours. We've actually done that.
He's gotta come back. He's gotta come back.
Yeah. So we definitely gonna have you come back, man. And you know, I'm looking forward to what's in store for you, and I can't wait to see what the future holds, man.
I'm excited too, man.
Yeah, this is amazing. So thank you so much, and we really do appreciate you.
Most definitely. I have a new family in Windsor. It is it's such a blessing, and my prayer is that in any way, shape, form, or fashion, not just financially being a blessing to the Windsor Art Center, but just to the city of Windsor. And those people are still reaching out to me, telling me that they're coming by tomorrow. You know, I had a person reach out to me on Instagram, and you know, it's been getting a lot of talk. So it's
Good.
it's a great thing, man. So I really thank y'all for allowing me to showcase the gift that God has given me.
Wonderful, wonderful. And for those of you who are watching this video on the replay, please visit bdstellmacher.com. If you have any questions about Windsor Art Center or you'd like to get involved in any way, our website is windsorartcenter.org. And if you feel so moved to make a donation because you just happen to love our programs that much, we got a link on there for you too. We'll catch y'all next time, and many more of these artist talks and virtual events to come. Y'all take care.
Peace.